Hello and welcome to Presentation 2. Today I'll be using the 3D modeling program MODO to model a simple sword from start to finish. So let us begin. First things first, as a personal preference I'm going to go down here to Mouse Input preset and change it from MODO to Maya, which changes the inputs that affect the camera when starting a new project. So to rotate you'll press Alt left mouse click, and to pan you will press Alt middle mouse click, as opposed to Alt left mouse click to rotate and Alt shift left mouse click to pan by MODO standards. But alright, we're going to need a reference image for our prop, so we can easily just drag in a PNG into the scene and it will have the correct proportions. We're going to scale it down a little bit, however, so if you hit R it will take you to the transform tool and you can change the size from the viewport. Similarly, hitting E will take you to the rotate tool and W will take you to the move tool. We'll move this up a little to give us some room above the grid. And now we will begin modeling. We're starting with a primitive cube, which can be found in the Create panel to the top left. We're going to go to the Tool Properties and make sure it starts in the middle of our scene. The size isn't very important, but you want to hit Apply and the cube will be created. Let's move our reference back just a little bit and our cube up, and we can start shaping our mesh. We'll first make it thinner on the z-axis. There's no point of reference here, so it's just guesswork for what feels right. For the rest of the shape we can use the ref, so we'll switch to wireframe mode and select edges at the middle top panel. Now we'll go to the front viewport and scale inwards and down to match the image like so. The ref is just a little bit off, so I'm going to move it more to the center. Back in perspective mode, we'll switch to polygon selection and poorly select the top face. Now back in the front view we can start extruding. Hitting B on the keyboard will take you to the bevel tool, which is actually more accurate for extruding than the extrude tool. It can also be found under the polygon tab if preferred. But anyways, we'll drag up on the bevel tool to create an extrusion. We'll hit Q and B again and keep doing this in increments until we reach the base of the blade. Next, we'll select the vertices. If they aren't automatically visible, you can open up the Settings tab at the top right, and under Active Meshes and Display, set Show Vertices to Always. Now we can select the vertices and scale them to match the shape of the image. Once that's finished, we're going to scale down the edges on the z-axis to taper the mesh downwards. Once again, there's no reference here, so there's no need for perfection. Okay, the blockout is done, so next we'll start making it more complex. Alright, time to define some edges. Select one of the edges that makes up the width of the blade and press Alt-L. This will select a ring around the mesh, which can also be achieved by going to the Select tab and clicking Ring. Now with the ring selected, we'll go to the Edit tab and select the Loop Slice tool. You can adjust the slice anywhere between the given points, but we'll leave it at 50%. Press Q and we'll now scale the new edges outwards on the x-axis. To adhere more to the shape of the ref, we'll scale the full mesh inwards just a bit and adjust where need be. Now we'll select the ring of edges along the length of the blade and create another loop slice. We're aiming to create this indentation in the middle of the sword. First, as the indent doesn't reach the bottom, we can deselect some of the edges towards the end. Now we can bevel it out. We'll adjust a few vertices to give it more definition. Now we'll connect some vertices for better structure. After selecting the two vertices, go under the Vertex tab, then select the Split Polygon tool. We will then select the middle polygons to extrude in and scale down, making adjustments where needed. Lastly, we'll delete the top faces as they won't be seen. Next, we will move on to the hilt. Creating the hilt won't be too different from the blade. We'll be starting it the same way with the primitive cube. The settings we have should still suffice, so let's apply it. We need to reposition it to where it is in the image and scale it as needed. We need to select the top and bottom edges to create another loop slice, like we've done previously, and then bevel it out several times for better detail. Next, select the edges and scale them on the y-axis to match the image. Make adjustments where needed. Select the edges along the width and bevel them in and scale where necessary. Lastly, select the sidemost faces and bevel them both inwards and out. The hilt is more or less done, and the last part to model is the grip and the pommel. Okay, I adjusted a few more things on the hilt, but it's nothing too important. I just moved some edges around. I should also mention that if you hit Tab, you can view the subdivided object. To apply it, you can go to the Geometry tab, then under Polygon, you can select Subdivide. We won't be using it, however, as we are keeping this low poly. But anyways, let's model the grip. Create a primitive cylinder under the default sizing and make sure it is on the Y-axis. Move the new cylinder up and scale it down until it doesn't overlap the hilt on any of its sides. We'll select the top face and move it up. Then scale the full cylinder at its width. We'll need to select the bottom face now, so we'll select the hilt and hit H to hide it. Scale both the bottom and the top faces and then delete them as they won't be seen. You can then press U to unhide the hilt. The grip is finished, so now we'll create another cylinder, making sure that it is orientated to the Z-axis. Move it up, scale it down, and align it with the reference. We'll then select the faces on the side and bevel and scale them to make them rounder. Lastly, it's just a matter of moving the edges to make it look more like the picture. And you can add more bevels for more detail if you'd like. Okay, and the modeling is finished. The final thing we can look at is shading. If you go to the Material Reference tab under the Properties panel to the left, you can find a property for smoothing angle. This determines at what angle two edges are smoothed together, as you can see. We can just set this to 40 since it works with our mesh, but it can take some messing around with. But alright, let's save it. MODO scenes are saved as LXO files by default. We can also export it as an FBX or an OBJ. And here we have our sword in Unity. Once again, the model works just like any other. But alright, that's modeling in MODO, and that concludes presentation 2. Thanks for watching.